So with the holidays approaching, I know there's going to be a lot of videos online, different gift guides, things like that. So I thought I'd do my own audiophile gift guide. There's not a lot of headphones here like the Sundara and the Focal Clears and many others. Got them all lined up on the desk. I'm going to talk about a few different headphones I'd recommend, accessories that I think audiophiles would like to use. So if you know anybody in this hobby and you're trying to shop for a gift for them, I'm going to be talking about it in this video. I'm also going to throw in a few other tech goodies that I would recommend for the holiday season. So we're going to get right into that. So before I get into this video, just to clarify, none of these products that I'm talking about today are for review. I'm just going to be talking a little bit here and there about what I think of each product and why I recommend them. Now to get started off, I'm going to be talking about some open back headphones. This is going to be the first open back headphone I'm going to be discussing today. This is the HG400SC. Now to be honest with you, in the build quality department, nothing special. This is like a fake leather. And the pads they use, it's nothing special. It's just their hybrid material. And this is plastic. This feels like it's metal, and this is plastic. So it's nothing really all that special in the build department, but these come in at $109, and for that $109 you're getting a planar magnetic headphone, and to me these actually sound really good for the price, and they bring in a good value in the planar magnetic space. So I would recommend somebody to purchase the HG400SC if you're looking for an entry-level planar magnetic headphone for somebody or yourself and you don't want to spend too much. These are a good entry point into that at $109. Another headphone that I want to talk about that currently comes in at $200 is the Sennheiser HD6XX. Now the Sennheiser HD6XX is actually one of my favorite headphones at any price point. Has some of the best timbre you'll hear on any headphone at any price point. To me, it's very neutral. It's a classic at this point. Just Google HD6XX or 650 or whatever. The 600 series are classic headphones at this point. And the build quality is actually good on these. It's all plastic, but there's no creaking or anything. You can pull them, do whatever, and they're not going to break. I've had these for years. But if I did have to nitpick, there is one thing. So the pads, there's nothing wrong with the pads, but over time, they will flatten a bit. As you can see, they're just velour, so they'll flatten, and that will change the frequency response a little bit. So you do need to get new pads for these probably every year or two. I would say probably about every year you would need to get a new pair of velour pads, and those are about $40. I never replaced mine, and mine have just been running strong for years, but to keep them sounding their best, I would replace the pads about every year. But there's no real reason to not buy the 6XX, especially at $200. To me, it's just an amazing headphone. Now, another headphone that will rival the 6XX is the HiFiMan Sundaras. These currently come in at around $279 to $300. I just reviewed them on the channel. If you want to see a full review, I will put the link in the description. Now, the HiFiMan Sundaras do feel a little bit more premium in the hand compared to the 6XX. For example, this is all metal, this grill. This is metal, this is metal, this is plastic, but this whole headband part's metal, fake leather, and the pads are kind of just similar to the HG400SC a little bit. They are different, but they are similar in that they are still the hybrid pads that HiFiMan uses. Now, to me, these are a huge step up from something like that HG400SC I just discussed. These will sound a lot better. They're the more mature headphone, but the price tag reflects that, so that is something to consider if you're looking at any of these headphones. But compared to the 6XX, me personally, as I said in the review, I prefer the 6XX over these, but I do know a lot of people that prefer the Sundara, so do your own research on what you think would sound better for you. But yeah, these are really great headphones, and they're starting to become a classic. Now, the last open back headphone that I want to talk about today is the Focal Clears. Now, you'll see these online referred to a lot as the Focal Clear OGs, because there is a Focal Clear MG that exists, and that's a totally different headphone entirely. Now, you may be asking about the Clear MG and how it compares to the OG that I have right here. I would just get the OG if I were you. Some people for the MG, some people for the OG, but my thing is that the MG is going to cost $14.99, while this is currently on sale for $790, so I would take this 10 out of 10 days of the week just because of the value proposition. But $790 is still a lot of money to spend on any headphone, to be honest with you. But what you're getting with the Clears is a very premium build and finish. So for example, this is all metal. Let me try to get closer to the camera to show you. These pads feel really nice, and so does the headband. It's the same material-ish as the pads. And let me try to show you the inside of the cup. You can see the drivers in there. And everything just feels really nice and premium on the headphones. Even like this part, it has springs, so it'll bounce back on its own when you're putting it on your head. So these just feel really nice. They're satisfying clicks when you adjust it. So I don't really have that many complaints about this in the build quality department. But if I did nitpick at all about the build, these ear pads and this headband. So as you can see, these are supposed to be white when they come from the factory. They're not perfectly white anymore. I did purchase these secondhand just to be completely honest. But yeah, they're not going to stay white forever. They will become off-colored. I know some people can remedy this by putting a cover over the headband or replacing the ear pads, but It's just something that is a little bit annoying on something that costs this much money. The reason you would buy something like this is because they just sound amazing. They have some of the best, if not the best, dynamics of any headphone, especially in this price range. The dynamics are just amazing. You get that really like girthy low end that you would want from a dynamic driver, some really good punch and authority, and these just sound really good, and they're not lacking in clarity at all for the price point. So I really do enjoy the Focal clears, and they are one of my favorite headphones. And I don't really have any honorable mentions of headphones that are open back that I think you should avoid buying for somebody or something. Can't think of any off the top of my head. The only thing that would come to mind maybe is the Moondrop Void. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Void. I actually own a Void and I really like it, but the problem with the Moondrop Void is it's just a bit overpriced for what it is. It's not at the same level as the 6XX, and it's priced at the same level as the 6XX, so that is a problem with that headphone. So if you're shopping around, just know that about the Moondrop Void. As far as closed-back headphones go, there are a few recommendations and a couple that I would probably avoid just because of other headphones in the category. Now, the first closed-back headphone that I want to talk about is the AKG K361s. Now, the AKG K361s are built, they're built a bit flimsy, to be honest with you, but this does have one major thing that I like about them being built. So as you can see, but there is one great thing. These will fold up, as you can see. And they come with a little carrying case. They come with 2 cables and a little carrying case. So you can take this on the go with you. And they're really portable, as you can see. You can just scrunch them up. So I actually really like that about these. Now, the tuning of these are tuned really closely to the Harman Target. So a lot of people will love the tuning of the AKG K361. But overall, I can't really think of many complaints. And these are $100. So at $100, can't think of many complaints. If you're looking for a portable closed-back headphone, I would really recommend this. And I don't really have any major nitpicks for telling somebody not to buy this, but I do have a few little nitpicks that you might want to know about if you are going to purchase something like this. First of all, the cable is a locking connector, and it has to use proprietary connectors. So it comes with 2 cables, so it's not the biggest deal, but it is something to note if you like cable swapping. I would also say that maybe to some users, they might find the pads a little bit thin. I never had any issue with the pads or any comfort issues really on these. They're really light, so, but I don't know if other people might, to be honest. And the headband, as you can see, doesn't have that much padding, so that is something to note. This is kind of like a hard plastic, and this is just, you're not gonna have like that much padding as I'm trying to show you, but yeah, that is a nitpick that I might have about these. But besides that, these are really great for $100, and they're a great entry point into the closed back headphone space. Another headphone I would recommend is the HiFiMan R7DX. Now, currently, I would not recommend them. They're currently selling on Massdrop for $150. I would not pay $150 for these, but I was able to pick them up recently for $50. So if they do go back on sale, I would definitely recommend these for that price point. The build on these, they have just the standard HiFiMan pads, as you can see, with the hybrid pads and a fake leather headband. And these just slide up and down for the headphone adjustment. And so yeah, not really much to say about the build quality. This is all plastic, so I don't really have that much to say about it. Now, comparing these to the AKG 361 that I just talked about, they are the comfort. These actually, I was able to wear them longer just because there's more room in here, and they don't feel as cumbersome. They're a lot bigger, but these are not going to fold up or do any of that cool stuff. They're not going to be as portable as the K361. And as far as the tuning goes, these aren't going to have as well of a defined low end as the K361, and they're not going to have that Harman tuning. But what these are going to have, they're going to have a bit more top end, I would say. It's just going to sound a bit more airy. Don't think these are very airy headphones, but comparatively to a K361, these have a bit more top end to me, and they sound a bit more open and wide. With that being said, in a nutshell, these aren't open and wide on their own, just comparatively to the K361. But I still do think that these are a good headphone. I just wouldn't pay $150 for them. If they go back on sale, then I would definitely recommend that you purchase a pair if you're looking for something like this. Now, there are a couple of headphones that I would probably avoid if I was shopping for somebody else for the holidays. First one is the M50X. Now, the M50X is a really great studio headphone. To me, it's good for studio. As you can see, it folds. It'll fold up and everything. To me, that's great for that, and even comes with a little carrying case. So this is great for a travel headphone or studio headphone. Now, part of what makes this so great as a studio headphone is these just feel like they're going to last forever. They feel really sturdy. Now, it doesn't look like there's a lot of padding up here, but when you're using them, it feels good. The ear pads are really shallow, though, and you might want to replace them, and they do wear down over time, as I've seen from other posts online. The reason that I would stay away from the M50X is they are $150, and I just don't know that I would pay $150 for this. Nothing wrong with the build quality, but the way they sound, I don't know if they're worth $150 if you're using them for an audiophile headphone and not a studio headphone. They just don't sound really great. It's not a tuning that I'm used to. I'll throw up the frequency response graph on the screen because I don't really have much to say. You can see for yourself. But compared to the K361, the K361 is a lot better tuned. But to be honest, I don't know if it would last as long. But if you're just using these in an audiophile environment, a desk or something, they're going to both last. I just think these would last better if you were out in a studio or outside or something like that, or you're moving around a lot. These feel like they would last better. But just going back to terms of sound and value, I would still stick with the K361 personally over the M50X. But I do know some people still do love the M50X. So if you are interested in these, I'll watch other reviews and do your own research. Another headphone that I would probably stay away from if I was buying it for someone is the Moondrop Jokers. Now, outright on its own, there's nothing wrong with Jokers, but as you can hear, they're just cheap. They're cheaply built. So they rattle a lot. There's little, if you can see, I'll show you. There's little nubs on here. This is supposed to help prevent the rattling, but as you can see, it doesn't. So they feel a bit cheap. They come in at $80, so I guess I can't fault them for that too much. But they just don't really fit on my head all too well, to be honest. The pads have a really steep slope compared to some other headphones, and they kind of look a bit wonky too, to be honest with you. Not really my cup of tea in the looks department. The headband is padded pretty well though. Now, if you think I'm going too hard on the Moondrop Joker, there are a few reasons I actually own them myself. It's Moondrop's first headphone, and they're $80. So $80, you can't really be too mad at them. They don't sound bad for $80. They just don't sound like a really great value at $80 either. One thing I do like about them is they have dual 3.5 millimeters, just like the R7DX, so you can use any cable, which the M50X and the AKG K361 both use proprietary cables. Now, the weak points of this headphone would be that it doesn't really have a good bass response. It feels cheap and things like that. Again, I don't hate this headphone. It's just something that I think is bad value for what it is. And I'd actually recommend the other headphones like the AKG K361 that I've talked about before. I'd recommend anybody go spend $80 on a Moondrop Joker. Now I have switched over to recording from my computer because I want to talk about a couple of other things. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the webcam that I'm using. It's the Insta360 Link 2. Comes in at $200, but I've been using it to record some of my videos or shorts, and to me it's performed really well for what it is. I've never had a webcam with this quality, and I'm going to show you a few things that it can do. So the first thing I'll talk about the Insta360 Link 2 is it has AI auto tracking. So as you can see here, I'll just move around a bit. And yeah, it'll just track me as I move around, which is really convenient. And you just do this gesture, it blinks a couple times, though you can't see it, but the light on the camera will blink a couple times and it will stop tracking you. So to me, that's very convenient. So this is definitely a webcam I would recommend at $200 if you're looking for something like that, if you want to get into content creation or streaming or something from your PC. Now, there is another model that's $150, but it doesn't have any of the gimbal auto tracking features. It still has auto tracking, but it's all done through software, and it doesn't use the actual gimbal hardware that the Insta360 Link 2 has. It still has auto tracking, but it's all done through AI, so it's not going to be as good or smooth as the one that I have here, because this is using a gimbal to track me. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the Vocaster 1. I'm using it right now, and it's actually a very powerful little interface. Comes in at $60, but the reason I want to talk about it is because, to me, it's a really great value. It's powering the SM7B right now. No cloud lifter, no booster, no nothing. This is just being ran straight to the Vocaster 1, and I'm speaking directly to the Shure SM7B. It's also got real-time audio processing, so I can turn that on and give you an example of what that would sound like. So this is going to be the radio setting on the Vocaster 1. This is the radio setting, and it's just a click of a button. I don't even have to do anything to mess with it, so let me just turn it back off. And now it's off, so now all my processing is off. So this is just really convenient and amazing, and you have a few settings in there where you can adjust to get it to sound how you want. So to me, this is just really convenient to use. It's also really convenient because there's a mute button just on the interface, and that's something I really like having, because if you're ever trying to do live stream or gaming or something where you don't have a mute button anymore, this is really, really convenient. But one thing I do want to complain about is that there's no way to turn off the zero latency monitoring at all if you're using the headphone output on this thing, which can be really annoying. Another feature I like that's really convenient is I can actually plug this directly into a camera, like my Sony ZV-1, for example. So the way you plug this into something like a Sony ZV-1 is where you would usually plug in the microphone right here. You would just take that and you would plug it into you would use a 3.5mm cable, and you would just plug it in straight to the Vocaster. And then I would run the Vocaster through USB to my PC, and I would have all my controls and everything on my PC right there, so it was really convenient. And I've actually used this feature. I've used it when I reviewed the HE1000s. It was really convenient to review the HE1000 and be able to just directly use my SM7B to the camera. That was super convenient for me. But one thing I will say is that it did get a little bit of hiss. Could have been the cable, could have been something else. I don't always have that issue, but it is something I want to note. Now, just to show you the power of this interface and the power that it has, I'm going to switch over to another microphone just to show you that it'll run it well. So I know not everybody has the Shure SM7B. I'm just using it as a popular microphone. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Rode Pod mic and see how that sounds with the Vocaster 1. So now I have switched over to the Rode Pod mic running through the Vocaster 1. I haven't changed the gain or anything since I was using the Shure SM7B. So everything should just be exactly the same as it was with the SM7B on the Rode Pod mic. Now I'm going to try to turn on the radio setting so you can see how the processing affects the sound. And so let me do that real quick. And this is the radio setting on the Vocaster 1 running through the Vocaster DSP through the Rode Pod mic. I'm just going to keep talking a little bit so you can get an idea of how this sounds. So this is how it sounds if you're doing a podcast or a live stream or something like that with the Vocaster and the Rode Pod mic. Now to me, this is just a really amazing thing. Let me turn the audio processing off real quick. But to me, this is just really amazing that you're able to get something like this through a Vocaster 1. And it's $60 and you can get DSP and all these features. So to me, it's really amazing. But if I was shopping for an interface, this is what I would recommend somebody, because to me it's just really great value. The only thing I would nitpick and have to say about it, again, there's another nitpick I have, is that it only has one XLR in. But for my use case, this is not an issue at all, and I'm really enjoying the Vocaster 1 in my setup. So I'm back on the Shure SM7B, and I'm not going to go through everything that this Vocaster can do. I'm not going to go through every single little thing that it can do, because that could be a whole video on its own. If you want to look at something like that, I would check out somebody else's review or somebody else's channel. But at $60, I would really recommend the Vocaster to anyone who's trying to get into entry-level audio interfaces. It's just an amazing value in my opinion. So there are a couple of things I still want to talk about, and the first thing I want to talk about is a few cables and adapters. So I made a little short video about some Hart Audio versus Audiophile Ninja cables. I would actually recommend both of those. They're both great, amazing cables, and I use both of them. As far as adapters, I don't really use that many cable adapters these days, but there are a few honorable mentions. Now, most of my cable adapters I use are just the Hart audio cables. I use the system that Hart has. But if I am ever using cable adapters, here are some of the ones I use. I made a video talking about those little DD Hi-Fi XLR to USB adapters. They're really great and they feel really premium, and I'd recommend them, but they are a bit expensive. But I did have to order the FIO adapters off of AliExpress. I think it was like $8, $10. This was really cheap comparatively to the DD Hi-Fi adapters that come in at about $40-ish. So this is a cheaper alternative to the DD Hi-Fi adapter that I recommended previously. Now the other adapter I want to talk about is 3.5 to 1/4 inch adapters. Now most of the ones I use just come with other headphones, but if I do ever order one of these for myself, I would just order them from Amazon Basics, because to me they're all kind of the same, to be honest. They don't really differ in quality or anything. They're all going to be exactly the same pretty much. So this is actually something I'd be fine with, just getting something cheap from Amazon Basics, and you can get a bunch of them on there for cheap. Now I'm going to talk about a few Dongle DAC amp sources that I would recommend, and one of them I have here that I would not recommend that people buy. So the first one, it's a classic, it's the obvious choice. Anybody who's an audiophile or into audio should buy one of these. It's the Apple Dongle. These just sound amazing. They run most IEMs, they run pretty much almost anything, and they sound really clean, and they're just cheap. So anybody should this is just an instant buy. So this is a really good purchase, and I don't regret it at all. Another source I would recommend that's a step up from that Apple Dongle is the Moondrop Dawn Pro. Now the Moondrop Dawn Pro is really good. It comes in at a price tag of $50. I think that this will offer you upgraded sound from something like the Apple Dongle. It's got 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter. It's got volume adjustments over here, and I think it's really good for the price. This is going to give you more power for headphones and IEMs that are not getting enough power on the Apple Dongle. But one thing I would like to note, at least for my particular situation, I couldn't get this to work properly on the Pixel 8. While I had no issues at all running the Pixel 8 with the Apple Dongle. But I have read online that some people had issues with some dongles from the Pixel 8, but it is just something I wanted to know. Now on to the last dongle that I wouldn't really recommend anyone buy, is the Fosi DS2. Now the Fosi DS2 is going to have 4.4 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter, and honestly it's not bad. It sounds pretty good, but my issue with it, at least, and it might just be I got a bad unit, the 3.5 millimeter works completely fine, but anytime I try to use the 4.4 millimeter on here, I do get a little bit of background noise, background hiss, and that's just unacceptable from any dongle DAC, especially when I can buy something like an Apple dongle, and it doesn't do that at about $10. So to me, this is just something that I would skip entirely. Now, one other thing that I do have here is I have a bunch of IEMs that I am about to discuss and mention that I would recommend for first-time buyers or gifts. Now, the first IEM that I'm going to be recommending here today is the Truth Ear Blue. Now, to me, the Truth Ear Blues that I have right here, they sound a bit more fun and energetic than the reds that I have that I'm about to discuss next. They're tuned closer to the Harman target, and to me, I really like the way these sound, and they provide something that to me a lot of other budget entry-level IEMs don't have in the tuning department. Now, the next IEM that I want to discuss that I was just alluding to a minute ago is the Truth Ear Reds that I have right here. Now, these IEMs do come with a little adapter that boosts the bass that I feel like a lot of people would want to use on this IEM, because this is otherwise a very neutral IEM, and it doesn't give the girth in the low end that the blue does. These just sound very natural and neutral is the way I would describe the way that the reds sound. Compared to the blue, they sound a bit less energetic on the top end and the lows, but they sound more even across the board, and everything kind of sounds like it should. That being said, there is one more Truth Ear IEM that I have here today, and it's the Truth Ear Hexas. Now, the Hexas are a great IEM. They cost a bit more than the other two IEMs that I have here. I think they come in at about $70 or $80. I haven't checked the recent prices, so I could be wrong, but I think these come in around $70 or $80. So, to me, these sound more mature than the other two. They have a bit more resolution and capabilities in general, so I really like that about the Hexa. But they won't give you the same great tuning that either of the red or blue have. Now, with recommending these, there's one major nitpick that I do want to say, that I have about all of the Truth Ear IEMs. I actually have two pairs of reds here. That's because the first one I ordered directly from China from Shenzhen Audio, whenever they got released. And I actually received a defective unit, and later I ended up getting another one off of eBay from an open box seller or something like that. And it's just something that's annoying, and it's something that it probably happens with a lot of these budget IEMs, but I have all these headphones. I've never received anything new that's defective like that, except for this IEM. Now, the issue was just a simple channel imbalance, but it's just annoying to buy something new that you're excited to receive and you receive a defective unit. Now, that's enough talking about Truth Ear IEMs. Now we're going to talk about the Dunu Titan S. Now, the Dunu Titan S, it comes with this little bag that kind of looks like a purse to me. It's a great IEM. I know the Dunu Titan S2 is out, but I haven't heard the Titan S2, so I'm just going to be discussing the Dunu Titan S. Now, to me, it's more neutral than all of the IEMs I just discussed. This is neutrality at its finest. This is some of the most neutral IEMs that I've ever heard at any price point. The tuning on these is just really, really good if you're into that really neutral sound. Another IEM that I have here that's definitely not neutral is the Audiophile P5s. Now, I don't know if it's pronounced Affle or Awful, but they definitely don't sound awful at all. Now, the build quality on these, I really like the comfort. The comfort on these, they're small, so they're really great and comfortable. They're going to be a lot smaller than something like a Moondrop Blessing series, for example. I also think these have really good low end for the price. They kind of offer a smooth sound with really punchy and rich low end. These have better low end than the Blessing series, in my opinion, at least that I've heard. I haven't heard any of the Dusk. Speaking of the Blessing series, I don't have any here, but I would actually recommend for another neutral IEM is the Moondrop Blessing 3. I've never tried any of the Dusk, as I just stated, but yeah, that's another IEM that I recommend that I actually don't have here. Now, another option that you may be looking for, if somebody's looking for headphone storage, I actually really like these containers. They're not supposed to be for this, they're jewelry containers, but they're really good because, as you can see, they comes with labels, so I've kind of labeled them all, and I have a bunch of different IEM tips in there, and you can also store your micro SD card in your digital audio players or DAPs, and I do that, and I have a bunch of different tips, and they're all labeled here. So to me, this is a really convenient way of storing your IEM ear tips. I do want to give a shout out though with this idea. I do want to give a shout out to Joshua Valour. I found this from one of his videos a long time ago, and it's an excellent idea. It makes storing IEM tips really, really convenient. If I can find the clip from his channel, I'll try to throw it up on the screen and give a huge shout out to him, and I thank him for giving me this great idea.
The bead organizer right here, I recommend using for all of your ear tips. Cable's not really going to fit in here. We'll talk more about cable organizer in a second.
So that's going to be about it for today's video. Have any questions about anything I talked about in today's video, feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to that as soon as possible. But yeah, thanks for watching the video and stay tuned for more content.